Yeah, I think there is some kind of problem with the with my OBS software, but yeah, let's start again. So yeah, welcome. And today we are going to build a Vue.js chat application using Socket.io and Node.js. I already have a sample application in here. So yeah, let's get started. So I already have this sample application, and if you don't know how to start a Vue.js dummy project, I will link the information down in the description. All right, so you can see we have this project, and this is running here. To start this project, you just have to do yarn serve, and this will get started at port localhost 8081. So now let's, because we are building a chat application, now let's start by building our chat app component. All right, so let's go here and in the components create a new file called chat app.vue, and yeah. So now we can just, firstly and foremost we have to define the template. So you can just define the template, and here I'm just going to type h1 h1 and then the now name the chat app. Okay, now let's try to export this. So script, we don't need this. So script, export default name of the component called chat app, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much it, right? So export default chat app. Now let's go into the view and register this component. So import chat app from the dot slash component slash chat app, and register this component here. All right, so there is some has been registered but not used. Okay, so we have to use this component, and instead of this sample app, I'm just going to use chat app, chat app, this, right? So now we have the chat app here, right? So why this is not working? Yeah, so you can see the chat app, right? So now we have successfully registered our component. Now let's start building the UI. So let's get started. Chat app. Now we'll define by creating an input and a join button. So basically what we want to do is whenever someone wants to join the chat, we want to define their name, and then click on join to join the chat. All right, so we'll start by that. Firstly and foremost, I will go here and create a div, and inside that div I'll create another div which will basically hold our input. I give it a class of maybe current name container, maybe, right? Name container, and inside that there will be an input type text, right? And its class will be username, and then there will be a button, there will be a join button. Okay, so there will be a join button, join, like this. So button, join button, right? And this the class for this button will be class join button. Okay, so you can see it here, but I don't, this is not looking good, so I'm going to provide add some styling. So let's go here and add style, right? And we need scoped style, so we don't want the style to escape this component and affect other components. So I'm just going to scope this style, and now let's start styling this. I'm going to give this a class as a parent container, right? And inside this parent container, The width will be 100%, the height will be 100%, right? What I'm doing, wait, width and height should be 100%. Its display will be flex, so I can center it out, center the input. Justify content will be in center, and align items as well in the center. And I'm going to give it its the position to be fixed, because it is not taking the width and the height of the 100% of the body, because body is not that body is not covering the full browser. But after giving it fixed, it's going to take HTML as the parent, the browser window as the parent, so it's going to expand and cover the whole area. Instead of align item center, I don't think this looks good. Instead of that, I'm just going to give it a padding top, padding top, which will be around 150 pixel. So this, now let's style our input, dot username. Let's increase its height first, right? Font, not font, but the height should be around 30 pixel, and then the font size will be around 20 pixel, and then there will let's see if that works. Okay, maybe this seems fine, I guess, right? Okay, all right, so let's give it a padding 5 pixel and margin bottom 5 pixel maybe. The reason I'm giving it margin bottom, because I want this join button to be here. So for that, what I'm going to do is, I have this container, name container, which is the parent of both of these. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to say name container display flex, display flex, not like this, flex, and flex direction to be column, and then this join button will come down, right? So now I'm going to style the join button a bit. So dot join button, and dot join button, its height will be, what should be its height? Let's give it the same height as the input, height 30 pixel. Let's give it a not a padding, because it already have a padding, right? So let's see, let's just increase its font size, right? Font size to be I don't know, 20 pixel maybe. Yeah, this seems fine. Yeah, okay. So now let's this okay, so this seems a bit bigger the input. Let's just limit the width here. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Now let's text align the text at the center, because that will look good, I guess, right? Yeah, and let's give it the font size, not the font size, but the font weight to be bold. Font weight to be bold. Yeah, this looks good now, right? So now we have this button. Whenever we what we want to do is, whenever we click on this join, we should connect to our chat server, and we should be able to chat. So in order to do that, we have to create the UI for the chat, yes, but first let's define our local state. Let's start by defining the data. data. I'm going to return the local state, and inside that local state I'm going to take, if the I'm going to take a variable called joined, which basically track if we are joined or not. All right, so it's just going to track that, right? And what just happened? Right, so joined false. Now this div will only render if if the user is not joined, right? So I use the vif directive to say only show this container when the user haven't joined the the chat. Now I'm going to define a method called join, and inside join, right, inside join I'm going to say this dot joined is equal to true, right? And now let's see if that works. So I go here, click on this, nothing happens. Yeah, because it will not happen, right? So so because there is no click here, so we right, one sec. So we on click, I'm going to call join, right? And let's see if that works. So Manoj, click on join, and then it's going to basically hide. Now one other thing we want is we want to capture the value of this input. So in order to do that, I'm just going to define another one sec. I'm just going to define another state variable. Let's go here and say current user, which is empty by default, right? And I'm just going to use vmodel directive, vmodel, and going to bind the model with the current user variable, right? So and when we click on join, I'm going to console the value of current user. So this dot current user, let's see if that works. Okay, Manoj, click on join, and you can see the value here. So now we have captured the value, and we have clicked we also have hidden this element when the user is joined. Now let's start by creating our chat UI, which will be in, like, after you click on the join. So I'm going to start by defining div here, right? And this div will only be visible if joined, right? So if we have already joined the chat, then only then this div will be visible, right? So let's start by creating the input where we can type our text messages. So that will be a text area. So I'll start by creating div our div here, and then a text area inside it. So text area, right? And do we need this? I don't think we need this, but yeah, let's be let it be. So firstly we start by giving it a model. So the reason we need a model is because we want to capture the value of whatever the user is writing. So I'm just going to say text here, and I'm going to bind that model here. V model will be equal to text, right? And then we'll give it a class. We'll just say text message, and then we will give it a, I don't think we need a type because it's a text area. So the other thing is we want to send a message when someone hits enter. So there will be no send button there. Whenever we have written our message and we want to send it, we'll just hit enter. So for that I'm going to use key up. So key up dot enter equal to send message. So send message, right? Beyond key up dot enter send message. Now let's define this send message method here, and we're just going to console.log the the message, which will be this dot text. So now let's go here and let's see if that works. So Manoj, click on join, then you can see this input, and I say Manoj, hit enter, you can see the message there, or say hey how are you. When I hit enter, you can see this text getting unfolded here. So now we have this text area. Let's style it because it's not looking good. What I want to do is I want to move this text area input to here and to at the bottom, and it to be like the full width. It should have its full width as of the window. All right, so now let's start by defining this. So where is the text area? We have a text message class, right? Now let's firstly define this here, and let's say width to be 100% first. That's first, right? And then position, yeah, why I want the position to be absolute, I'll tell you in a bit. So position absolute, position to be absolute. The reason being, we want this input to be here, but so, and that's why we are basically not doing its position to be absolute. So for example, this this div, we'll call it text input container, for example, and we go here, we use it down here, and we say its height to be 100 VH. So it it basically covers the whole height of the view, and yeah, it's so that's basically it. Now if we go here in the text message position absolute and we say bottom 0, right, so it will automatically move the input to down here, right? Okay, so that is good. So now its bottom is 0 pixel, that's good. Let's give it a height. Let's give it a height of 70 pixel, and bottom is 0 already, right? Let's give it a padding, so like 10 pixel padding, right? So the message starts a bit. Manoj, click on join, right? I think what we have to do is, I think it doesn't have a right box sizing. One sec. Yeah, you can see, right? So it doesn't have the right box sizing. Let's just go here and put the right box sizing. Okay, so now we have our text area, right? Now let's create the the messages list. So we have the message, so whenever we hit enter, we need it to append to our message list, right? So for that, firstly and foremost, I'm going to keep a state variable called messages, which will be like the array of the message that we are going to render. And then I'll have a div here inside if joined. I'll have a div here, and this will be basically this will be the message like the list container. So I'm just going to say list container, and so now we have the list container, right? So now we're going to just render our messages. Let's define our so we say it has a ID, a random ID, and we say it has text, right? So text, hey how are you, like this. And then we have like the user, which whoever is the sender of this message. So I'll just say Manoj for now. Right, now I can basically render this here. So I'm going to use v4 directive, v4 message in messages. I'm going to define the key as the id, key equal to message.id, right? And now inside the div I'll have a b element which will show our user name, and then I have the message which will be message dot text. Let's see if that works. Right, so I reload the page and I just say go here, say Manoj join, and you can see the message here. Now whenever we hit enter, we want to append to this message. All right, so let's create a method for that. It will be add message. Let's see if that works. Right, yeah, so let's start by add message, and we'll start by creating our new message. So id will be randomly chosen. So id will be new date dot get time. So by that the id will always be unique, and then there will be the text, which will be the this dot text, and then there will be user, which will be this dot current user, right? So we are basically keeping track of the user, right? Because if the current username is Manoj, then it should be Manoj. If it's Justin, it should be Justin, and stuff like that. What? Okay, the prettier kicks in, and now it's now not letting me do anything. So one sec. Form a document. Let's save this. This is fine. No. Message assigned a value but never used. Yeah, that's fine. We'll use it. So now we'll get this message, and we'll say this dot messages equal to this dot messages dot concate message. Right, now let's see if that works. So I've reloaded it, and let's see if this works. I go here, I say I am Justin, I join the chat and say I am good, Manoj, how are you, let's say, and hit enter. Okay, nothing happens. Yeah, because I'm not calling the add message, right? So I have to call the add message here. This dot add message. Let's remove this dummy message because it's creating confusion. So let's so we have removed this message. Now let's go and start. So Manoj or Justin, okay, Manoj, hit join, say hi, hit enter. What is happening? Cannot read property concate of undefined. Alright, so it should be messages, not message. This dot messages dot concate, hit reload. Manoj join, hey, how are you, hit enter, and you can see, right, But the other thing is this is not getting removed, right? So let's remove this. So whenever we send a message, we just say this dot text equal to empty, and let's see if that works. Justin, say hey, how are you? Hit enter, and this got empty, as well as you can see, the my name and my message here. So now this is done, right? So we have a list. Now let's try to populate it using different users messages, and for that we have to create a chat server where we can basically send our messages and and also receive message from them, right? So for that we are going to use socket.io. So let's start by installing. I already have installed it here, but you can I'll link down the information in the description. It's just yarn add socket.io client, but yeah, I already have that. So now let's import socket.io client. So I'm going to import it inside the script. Import io from socket.io client, right? And yeah, so socket.io, right? Now so this prettier is being kicked in. Let's just do this, right? And right, so prettier is giving me some error. Let me see what are the error. So IO is defined, that's fine. Warning, insert this at 28th line, yes, and at the 45th here as well. Okay, that's fine. So we'll use IO. So to use IO, what we have to do is when user is joining, we'll say we'll basically connect to the the instance, which will create in a bit, but it will be localhost 3000. All right, and we are going to save this instance in our local state. So it will be socket instance equal to io this, right? So now let's start by creating our chat server. So I have a dummy Node.js project here, but you can simply create it by using npm init. I'll link down the information in the description. So in this project, I already have a server.js. So we are just going to install some packages and just get started. So in order to create a chat server, real-time chat server, you need two things, which first is Express and the second is socket.io. So you can just say and add Express and socket.io. Socket.io. So there is a difference between socket.io and socket.io client. So socket.io client is a front-end library which we will use to send messages or receive message in the client side in the browser, and socket.io is the main chat server, main real-time server, which we can use to create connections between different users basically. All right, so we already have so we now have them installed. Let's import them. Express is equal to require express, and then const. So now we have to create a HTTP server. We'll do that by requiring the HTTP, the native Node.js module HTTP. Now we'll extract server from the socket.io. Require socket.io, right? Now let's create our Express server equal to Express, and const server, our HTTP server, HTTP dot create server, right, app. I think you don't need Express if you don't want to, but I just need it to test if the APIs are working properly or not. But if you don't want Express, you can just go with normal HTTP, right? And now let's create our IO server, which will be new. IO will be like the socket IO server, and we are just going to take this HTTP server inside us, and that's it. Now let's define our listeners. So basically, socket IO server lets you define what will happen on a connection. What kind of messages or what kind of identifiers you want to listen to or events you want to listen to. So we're just going to do that. So io.on connection. So whenever there is a connection, we get the socket, that current socket. So for example, if this is basically the user connection, so if there are like two users, there will be two sockets. So for each socket, I'm just going to console.log that user, and then we have a socket ID which is unique. Socket.id is connected. All right, so we're just going to say that, and then we're just going to say socket.on disconnect. So if user disconnects, for example, the user closes its browser or closes the tab, then basically the socket will get disconnected. And in that case, we are just going to say console.log user. Again, we have the socket.id left. All right, so that user left, and we are just going to now listen to 3000 port, which we defined in our front-end application as well. And we'll just say console.log chat server is running on 3000, right? Let's see if that works, right? So let's start by just calling node server.js and executing our script, and it says chat server is running on 3000. And let's start by connecting. In our application, what we had to do is where it is here, what we have to do is when okay, so this basically connects to the localhost 3000, right? So I think it will work. Let's say, so Manoj join. Yeah, it's trying to connect, but it's not able to. The reason, it is blocked by course. So yeah, so in the newer version of socket IO, you need to enable course. If you don't, then it's going to throw error. The reason is because we are on a different port, 8081 and 3000. So socket IO is basically blocking, for security reason, it's blocking the traffic between two ports. So what we have to do is we have to go to our server and enable course. To enable course, we have to go here. We can provide course options, so which will be origin can be from anywhere. We can request the we can request the connection from anywhere, and methods we allows it get and post to if it is doing long calling. So yeah, so get post. Now let's restart our server and let's see if this works. So right, let's go here, and we also have our terminal open here, so you guys can see if something pops up. So Manoj, click on join, and you can see user, this is connected. Now let's open a new tab and see if that works as well. And I just go here, Justin, click on join, and you can see another user is added. So now that is great, and if I click, like if I close this, then you can see user this is left, right? So now we have a mechanism to send messages. Now let's start by adding some events. So I'll just say here socket.on message. If we receive a message, and will also receive some data with that message. I'm going to say socket.broadcast.emit. So now what we are doing, we are building a group chat, not a one-to-one chat. So in this case, what we are going to do is, whenever a socket send message to other sockets, we are only going to send that message to other sockets, not to the socket itself. So for that we are going to use broadcast. So for example, if there is a, b, c, and if a sends the message, socket.broadcast will send that message. If we emit the message, it will send that message to b and c, not to the a, right? So let's do that. Socket.broadcast.emit, and I'm just going to define another event listener called received, message received, right? Message received, and the data, and I'm going to send the data as well, right? So now let's go to our front-end application and define this listeners as well. So we have the socket.io instance, and what we are going to do, if this dot socket dot instance on, if we receive message received, then we'll have the data, right? So we have the data, and we are going to append that data to messages. All right, so let's see if that works. So this dot messages equal to this dot messages dot concate data, right? And on send message, we are going to send the message, right? So what we are going to do, const message id new date dot get time text this. Here what we are going to say, this dot socket instance, why there is an error? There is no error, right? I just have to put a semicolon here. So this dot socket instance dot, I think it's emit, right? So emit, and we'll emit the message like the event message and our message as well. So what is happening here? Whenever we are sending a message, firstly foremost, when we click on join, we'll join the localhost, and we basically register a listener that whenever we receive message received event from the backend, we'll just take the data and append it in our chat history. And when we send the message, what we are doing is, we will emit the message event and we'll send all of this data so the backend can send it to other users. Let's see if this works. Okay, so I go here, reload this. I think I have to restart my chat server as well. Yeah, because the broadcast emit code is new. So yeah, okay. So now I'm going to go to chat app.vue, and let's say Manoj join, and I go to the next tab and say Justin join. Let's see if I send a message and Manoj will receive or not, and let's do that side by side. Okay, so I'm just going to close this. Not like that, man. Let's see if that works. So hey, I am Manoj, hit enter. Okay, hey, so it doesn't seem to be working. Why it is not working? To this socket.emit message instance.emit message, you can see I'm always messing this up. So it should be this dot messages, right? So now let's go here and see if this works. I reload this one, I reload this one as well. So now this is Justin, join, and let's say Manoj, join. Now let's say hi, my name is Manoj, hit enter, and you can see Justin is also receiving the message. Hey, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Yeah. So I'm able to receive different users like message. Now let's create another tab. Right. Localhost 8081. And let's join again. Let's say Mari, and just say join and say hey, I am Mary, and you can see, right, Justin and Manoj both are receiving the message. So yeah guys, this is pretty much it. This is the chat app we built in Vue.js using Socket.io and Node.js. I'll put the GitHub repo for both front end and back end in the description, so you guys can go and check it out. And yeah, just let me know what kind of stuff you want me to do in this live coding sessions. And yeah, till next Saturday, have fun.